Coming to you live from my secret location. That is not my regular location. No. And I only have my standard onboard mic. No fancy Rode Pro. No fancy light on top of the camera. Just a lighting. Well, lights coming from the top of the bedroom ceiling. Oops, I've just gave the game away. And obviously this isn't live either because this is a pre-recorded segment because that's how I always do things. There's always going to be some sort of edit somewhere. I haven't edited anything out as of yet and I'm only 40 seconds into recording. But you've seen the title of what this video's about, so let's just get on with it. Here we have a bokken. And here we have a plastic toy sword. And here we have a wooden toy sword. What the hell am I doing with all these toy swords? Well, it's not fair to call the bokken a toy sword because this is actually meant for training purposes. And one of the reasons I bought this was because it kind of did look like it was meant to be for training purposes, but having had a little bit of practice with it, I've got my doubts about that. This I bought more for the aesthetics, but given the weight and balance and the way everything kind of works out quite nicely with it, it feels like it could be of use for general practice purposes, if you don't want to shell out the money for a real sword. They're all relatively cheap apart from the bokken. That was about £30 I think on Amazon, and they're all from Amazon. And in any case, this was about £20 and this was about £18. So the bokken, meant to simulate the Japanese katana. The single-edged blade would be here, and this would be the flat edge, the section that's supposed to provide all the reinforcement for the rest of the blade from what I understand of katanas. You've got the little handle, the long handle here, you've got the guard here which is kept in place by this white little rubber ring, and if I just push this forward you'll see that here there is actually just a little bit of a gap, a little bit of a groove to allow it to rest in place a bit better. Okay, so that does work quite nicely. Obviously I can't demonstrate correct uses of this kind of swordsmanship type thing from in front of the camera like this in such a small room, and it is a small room I'm in, but I'll let you in on a secret. I've actually had a bokken in the past. I'll let you in on another secret. I used to do martial arts. The style I did was a Korean style called Tang Soo Do, and I got up to a second dan before I quit. I basically had a falling out with the instructor, so that's a story for another time, I believe. But I had bought myself a bokken, almost identical in all regards to this one. It was a darker, browner colour, whereas this is a sort of slightly off red. That one was a lot smoother. This one has just a slight rough feel to it. And it just doesn't seem to have the same quality of paint application that the other one I had. No, I say had, I still have it, but it's broken. I broke it while training at one point. It literally smashed around in the middle somewhere, and while I did glue it together with wood glue and sort of wrap it up with sticky tape to just sort of hold it in place, it has obviously been repaired and it's still usable for practicing drills and so on. I wouldn't really trust it for blade against blade practice. Not that I actually practice that sort of stuff anyhow, but I just thought, what the hell, get another one, you know, since I'm going after these as well. So in general terms, yes, it's quite nice. It feels good, although it does feel just a bit rough and so on, but it does actually do what it's supposed to do. It's just that I do think that I could do with a bit more attention to paint, and maybe just some sort of coat of gloss or something just to help protect it a bit more. You know, give it a bit more smoother look and finish and so on and so forth. There's also this little sort of notch little bit here. I don't know if that just got past the quality assessment on whatnot, but it's not really something you're going to notice that much, but it does add a little bit of character. And also when you look at this section in a bit more detail, you sort of notice, because of the notch they've added there, it does mean that this part of the blade tapers inward a bit, which the other bokken didn't do. It was more of a one solid piece of wood, all uniformly the same width, and so it needed to be slightly different for the simulation of the blade and the flat edge and so on. Moving on to this particular sword, it is, unlike the Bokken, which is a solid piece of wood, this has a bit of bend to it, which, as far as things like the metal swords are concerned, it is needed to allow the swords to not break. How relevant that would be in a wooden sword, I don't know, as I'm not really an expert in this sort of thing, but there are a couple of things that I'm not really that happy about with this, but I'm going to sort of treat this as a project of mine to basically work on my woodwork skills, which are non-existent. One thing I will notice, well, I will point out, you might not be able to notice on the camera, but there is a groove running along more or less the entirety of the middle. It sort of ends around about here, and it's repeated along this side. Again, because of the colour of the wood and the lack of any real treatment to the wood, you do sort of see several little rough bits. It's not as rough a feel as that, it's relatively smooth, but you just do get the feeling that another go over with some sandpaper or something would have been quite nice. Then we get to the handle. Now this is meant to be a two-handed sword, and the actual handle bit is a lot shorter. I don't have the biggest hands in the world, but I don't have the smallest hands either. And to use it two-handed, I'm literally got my fingers wrapped over the pommel there. But it's also quite a small handle. I'm assuming it's meant to be aimed for children, although depending on the size of the child, the blade is possibly a little too long for a child whose hand could actually fit around that, that particular handle. Also, there's the guard here. You may have noticed. It's not a solid piece of wood. It is rope. It's ultimately two different sections of rope tied together with more string. So, as you get it out of packaging, it's literally like that. And it'll even bend down like so. It'll snap back into place, but that's just not going to provide any kind of protection if you are somehow using this for any kind of sword practice. It would just be useless. And again, with the lack of proper grip here, unless you do have really tiny hands, that's not going to be of much good. So what I'm thinking in this regard is perhaps, as with the Bokken, applying another coat of paint and some gloss or something to the whole length of the wood to just make sure everything's seeped in properly. That would mean obviously taking these sections off, but then taking this off, putting this back on, using this stuff to sort of fill up the gap a bit, and making my own homemade wooden guard rail here. I've looked at a couple of videos. There are videos telling you how to make your own wooden sword, so it would be a sort of homemade project type thing. Just need to get the right pieces of wood. Then after all that's done, once that's in place and secured, glued in and possibly drilled in with a piece of wooden dowel or something, I would finish this section off, like I said, put these pieces of rope down here to sort of provide a bit more grip space. Then maybe get some leather or something and just wrap it around to give it that sort of medieval sword type hilt handle feel and design. Because in general, the weight on this does feel quite nice. So does the weight balance on this, although this is a lot heavier. Okay, so you could, practice with these two swords as, maybe appropriate in certain regards. Although again, because of the quality of the wood, I've got my doubts about how much damage this could take. It does feel pretty good, but let's just see. Yeah, it has. You're probably not going to see this particularly easily on the camera here, but that has done some minor damage. Okay, it's just a little bit of gentle notching. Nothing that's really going to stand out too much. You can sort of see the impacts there, so yeah. I wouldn't really recommend this as anything other than maybe a pet project just to practice your own woodwork skills on, maybe. I mean, even the end here does look just a bit misshapen, as if though whoever's done it has just said, yeah, that's good enough, and then just done that. Which brings me on to this. Now, this is a plastic looking sword. It's been treated to try to look as realistic as you can get with plastic. It's got a repeated pattern on both sides on this groove here, which is basically, if I remember rightly, the Templars version of the Holy Cross. It's repeated on the pommel here. It is, you can hear that it's hollow, and it does have a bit of bend in its own right. I can't remember what the type of plastic is that it's made of. I'll put the name along here at the bottom somewhere. But it does look good. It's not going to pass for the real thing by any stretch of the it's not going to pass for the real thing by any stretch of the imagination, but it does feel very good in the hand. I mean, this grip here, again, plastic, okay, to simulate the look and everything, it fits my hand perfectly. And this is obviously meant to be just a one-handed sword in that case. You could conceivably put your other hand on the pommel just to get some extra force behind it. And it's a much shorter blade in general than either the boggin, when you compare the actual hilts, okay, of any of these swords. In fact, if you compare the boggin and this great sword, this long sword, whatever it's supposed to be, and you look at them hilt-wise to the tip, they are roughly the same length. The boggin just has a much longer handle than either one of them. But this feels perfect as far as the grip is concerned, and the weight balance does feel pretty good as well. So, yeah. Maybe I'll just do this for a little while. Nah, it's... Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Or did I? Well, no, of course I didn't, because it's just the limitations of the swing that I can reach at this point. But yeah, I think in general, let's just hold this up here and just do some... Yeah, that doesn't look like there's any damage done to it whatsoever. When I was looking up on Amazon for different plastic swords and so on, I think there's the vinyl type of swords, which I don't think... I think in general you could possibly make use of this as a sparring tool as well, if you're, you know, on a tight budget, because it was relatively cheap. Because it does look like it could take quite a bit of a beating. Yeah, that's actually put some indentations in on the blade there, so you know, that would just ultimately add a character to it, so it'll look like something that's actually being used much like a real sword would have been used. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this as a purchase in its own right, because in the right light, okay, with the right filters on and something, that could look quite realistic, you know, for still photography. You know, put it in the right setting and so on. This, I just need to give a coat of paint and some varnish. This I just need to put on a coat of paint or some varnish or something, or gloss or something to make it look a bit better. This needs some massive overhauling, so I can make it my own little pet project and do a follow-up video on that. But I don't think I would ever want to use this for anything other than just, say, practicing techniques by itself. And while I say practicing techniques, I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, a sword person. I don't do any kind of fencing at all, whether it's European-based martial arts or Asian-based martial arts. Okay, I just don't. I've tried it. Okay, it was enjoyable. It just didn't feel like it was for me. But I do like the idea of having something like this, you know, on the wall, or being incorporated as some sort of exercise equipment more than anything else. I mean, this is a great exercise for the wrist. It's just that, you know, to really benefit from it properly, you have to do it for both hands. Jamie Lamster, pay attention. I know you've only got one, but if you'd actually practiced with both, then you might not be in your current situation, mightn't you not? Anyhow, I think that's enough rambling for today from me. Thank you very much for watching. Please comment, like it if you've liked it, subscribe if you haven't and you wanted to, and if you'd really like to do me a favour, hit that share button and put this out on all kinds of social media. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.